In the real estate world, the ground is really shifting under everyone's feet. The National Association of Realtors, NAR, has been facing this huge storm of controversy, and a lot of agents are asking, why am I even a member? But what if one of NAR's most outspoken critics actually made a pretty powerful case for staying? Well, let's dive into that surprising argument.
So this is it. This is the big question on every single agent's mind right now. For as long as anyone can remember, getting into the multiple listing service, the absolute lifeblood of the business, was tied directly to being a realtor. But now, that fundamental link is breaking, and it's forcing a really tough, career-defining decision.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this dilemma, we have to look at what exactly changed. It all comes down to one single, historic decision that has completely shaken up the relationship between agents, the MLS, and NAR.
And there it is. That's the core of it. The choice is now up to each individual MLS. They can, if they want to, decouple access from NAR membership. So that automatic connection, it's gone. And look, this isn't just some minor policy tweak. It is a massive structural shift in how things have been done for decades.
So, you can imagine the first reaction for a lot of people was all about the money. If the main key to the kingdom, that MLS access, might be available without paying for membership, why on earth would you keep paying those dues? It makes sense, right? But the argument we're digging into today says that this view might just be a little short-sighted, that it misses the bigger picture.
To get that bigger picture, we've actually got to rewind the clock. We need to go back to a time before the title realtor even existed, just to see why it was created in the first place.
Before 1908, the real estate market was pretty much the Wild West. Seriously, practitioners were actually called land hustlers, and the public was, understandably, very skeptical. So the creation of a national association, then a code of ethics, and finally a professional title, all of this was a very deliberate effort to build trust and elevate the entire business into a real profession.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The name realtor itself was no accident. That "or" suffix was chosen specifically to send a message. It was meant to put the role on the same level as a doctor or a professor or a counselor. It signifies skill, training, accountability. It was meant to define a realtor as a doer, an expert, an advocate, and an advisor for their client.
But let's be real. That professional ideal has taken a major hit recently. To have any kind of credible conversation about the value of NAR today, we have to start by acknowledging the elephant in the room, the organization's recent and very serious failures.
And the author of the article this is all based on, Daryl Davis, he just puts his cards right on the table. He's saying, look, I'm not some NAR defender. He's been right there in the trenches with frustrated members calling out all the problems. That's what makes his argument for staying so compelling.
And man, the problems have been significant. We're talking about everything from self-inflicted wounds and huge legal battles to a culture that just seemed to lose its way on transparency. These missteps have really eroded trust, not just with the public, but with NAR's own members, and it's caused a whole lot of frustration.
So that brings us to the next big question. After all that mess, is anything actually changing? Is there any real reason to believe that this huge organization is finally starting to correct its course?
It's really a balancing act right now. On one side, you see some clear signs of progress. A totally new leadership team, some pretty major budget cuts, and a stated focus on getting back to the members. But on the other side of the scale, there's this huge missing piece that's weighing things down. Real financial transparency about where the money goes.
The new leadership, they're not downplaying the challenge. The new CEO has literally called these changes historic. It signals a massive effort to rebuild. But with so much work still to be done, it kind of forces us to look past the organization's flaws for a second and ask, what's the underlying value here?
So with all that context, the history, the failures, the potential turnaround, let's get to the real heart of the argument, and it's this. The value of being a realtor was never just about getting into the MLS.
Okay, so this is the crucial point. Your membership buys you into this entire ecosystem of benefits that has nothing to do with MLS access. We're talking about the lobbying power in Washington that protects homeownership and, frankly, your fees. It's the credibility that comes from a nationally recognized brand and a code of ethics that's over 100 years old. It's community, education, legal support, the whole shebang.
And that reframes the entire debate, doesn't it? The choice suddenly isn't just about saving a few bucks on dues. It's a much deeper, more fundamental decision about how you see yourself and your career.
And this lays the two paths out clear as day. On one side, you have the path of being just a license holder, an individual kinda on your own, just permitted to do business. On the other, you have the path of upholding a profession, being connected to a shared code, a legacy, and a collective commitment to doing things the right way.
Ultimately, the argument is that this professional identity isn't just some feel-good idea. No, it's a tangible asset. It's the source of your credibility with clients, and it's the engine of advocacy that's out there working to protect your ability to make a living in this business.
So in the end, the choice really isn't about a membership fee. It's about identity. Are you simply a licensee, or are you part of a profession? The entire future of the industry could really depend on how agents everywhere answer that one question.